Chair, staff is ready when you are.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, August 24, 2026 meeting of the City of Sacramento Ethics Commission. The meeting is now called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Today's meeting is being streamed live on YouTube in English and Spanish. Please note that the live captioning and translations are AI generated and may contain errors. Members, please unmute your microphones for the roll call. Commissioner Emery?
Present.
Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Tao?
Here.
Commissioner Velasquez?
Here.
And Chair LaFoso?
LaFoso,
LaFoso,
here.
sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay. And I'd like to remind members of the public in chambers that if you'd like to speak on an agenda item, please register online on our website to enter a digital speaker slip or see the clerk's table before the item begins. Does that mean we don't have speaker slips? Does that mean we don't? Okay, we don't have hard copy speaker slips anymore. Okay, keep up, Chair. After the item is called, we will no longer accept new speakers. You will have 2 minutes to speak once you are called on. And we will now do the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance courtesy of Commissioner Kelly.
Please rise for the opening acknowledgments in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, the Wintun peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather together today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's history, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. And we will now proceed with today's agenda. The first item is the consent calendar, consisting of item number 1, the meeting minutes, and item number 2, the Ethics Commission complaint log. Do we have any commissioner comments or questions? I have one. If any commissioner wants to go before me. I have a question about the complaint log for the clerk. Madam Clerk, I wanted to ask about, sorry, small print. Number 2026-008 received on July 30, if I recall. It's got a lot of redactions in it, but an educated person can pretty much figure out what it's about. My question to you is, did you consult with the city attorney on this one?
So, good evening. My name is Mindy Cuppy, your city clerk, and no, I did not consult with the attorney.
All right. Mr. City Clerk, do you have any comment on this matter?
I believe you mean city attorney, sorry, the city attorney. You said clerk.
City Attorney, Mr. Lindsay, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
Gary Lindsay of the Sacramento City Attorney's Office, General Counsel for the Ethics Commission. To make a long story short, Chair LaFoso has brought this particular complaint, and it's not even adjudication, but it's dismissal to my attention. The long story short would be that I would actually recommend that the dismissal be reversed and this be forwarded to the independent evaluator for consideration. The reason being that how the complaint itself is framed is as to violation of constitutional rights, where it is true that the Ethics Commission, that's not necessarily within the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission. I believe ultimately the conduct is one that, at least on its face, if true, might, I'm not saying that it is, might involve Chapter 3 of the Council Code, Code of Procedures, or sorry, the council's rules, sorry.
Rules of
Rules
procedure.
of procedure, sorry. As to meetings, in particular with respect to conduct by members of the city council and also with respect to conduct towards the public at large, without saying one way or another as to whether or not the merits of the particular complaint, it does seem that the conduct being alleged does fall within the purview of that part of the council rules of procedure, which are based on chapter 2.112 of the Sacramento City Code within the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission.
Understood. Any thoughts, Madam Clerk?
I did review the tape of that meeting, and as Mr. Lindsay said, constitutional rights are not under the scope of the Ethics Commission, so I felt it would be appropriate to not forward that to the independent evaluator to review.
I appreciate that. And one of the reasons I raised this, and I will be perfectly candid, I didn't get the response from Mr. Lindsay I actually thought I might get. But I've raised numerous comments about the process, and a critical issue, in my opinion, is that we not require complainants to name a specific statute or law, and that if their factual explanations touch on a law without them specifying it, that should be where the jurisdictional line is drawn. And I feel strongly about that. I suppose you could have a different point of view, Madam Clerk. Apropos to comments I made at the last meeting, I think that would not be an accurate reading of our rules of procedure. But I'll frame my question to you this way. Is it possible to back up the process and undismiss it?
If this commission so chooses, you can advise me to do so.
Okay.
I would expect that, Mr. Lindsay, do you want them to vote on that? Thank you.
Procedurally, does it make sense to wrap it up into the vote on the consent calendar, noting that item 2's action is approve the log, and perhaps the motion could be to adopt the consent calendar with the amendment of approve the log with the proviso of referring the stated item to the independent evaluator?
Yes, Chair LaFazo, and I also would state on the record, too, that I actually do advise that this should be dismissal undone and sent to the independent evaluator based on what's being alleged in the complaint as far as the facts, given the inclusion of the Council Rules of Procedure, Chapter 3, being within the purview of this commission.
And I very much appreciate that. I will be honest, late this afternoon, I sat and walked through myself as to how procedurally this would work. Would it be a commission action, or would staff work it out? And as I noticed how the action item is phrased in the agenda, it occurred to me it could get to a commission vote in the way that I mentioned. And given that the clerk has suggested that that's the action that will yield the result that I'm suggesting, and that, if I understand correctly, you are suggesting.
Yes.
I think I'll just go the fast way and suggest to my colleagues that if they're willing to go that direction. And with that, are there any other commissioner questions or comments on the consent calendar, the two items? So with that, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar, and the chair is suggesting an amendment. Commissioner Emery.
I so move, approve the consent calendar with the exception of removing, and I'm sorry, what was the numbers?
2026-008. 2026-8.
2026-8 to be voted on, to be
referred to the independent evaluator.
Referred to independent evaluator.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. Is there any final commissioner question or comment on the motion before we take a vote? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. We will go ahead and do a voice vote for this. Commissioners, please unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstain or oppose? Thank you, motion passes.
And thank you, Clerk. I forgot we were doing voice votes these days, so I'll get that right next time. Although I'm going to do a roll call for the hearing because I think it lives up to that standard. Thank you for that reminder, Madam Clerk. Okay, we are proceeding to the discussion calendar, which is item 3, our public hearing. And now we're going to get really procedural. I will begin by calling the matter, item 3, receive independent evaluators report and conduct hearing related to a complaint before the Sacramento Ethics Commission alleging a violation of the Levine Act and of the City of Sacramento Municipal Code campaign contribution limits by Mayor Kevin McCarty, noticed August 13, 2026. And this hearing is called to order on August 24, 2026. We are gathered in Sacramento, California. This hearing is to address the complaint before the Sacramento Ethics Commission per the allegations in the agenda notice I just read. This hearing will be run in accordance with the Brown Act, the Sacramento Sunshine Ordinance, and the Sacramento Ethics Commission procedures. This hearing is being recorded by the Office of the City Clerk. A quorum of the Ethics Commission is present. I would now like others in the room to identify themselves for the record. We will start with Commission staff and the independent evaluator. Ms. Mindy Cuppy, City Clerk, City of Sacramento, are you here?
Thank you. Mindy Cuppy, Sacramento City Clerk.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Lindsay, attorney for the commission, are you here?
Yes, present.
Mr. Trevor T. Taniguchi, a senior associate with Hanson Bridget LLP, the independent evaluator, are you here?
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask, if present, the respondent, as well as their representative, identify themselves for the record. Is Mr. McCarty here? Is there anyone present on behalf of Mr. McCarty, present in the chamber? And I assume if anybody's watching live and comes on down on behalf of Mr. McCarty, we'll let them enter themselves into the proceeding if they arrive a little bit late. That said, now I would ask that, if present, the complainant or their representative identify themselves for the record. Ms. Carla Black, are you here? Yes, Ms. Carla Black from the audience has indicated her presence. All right. We have a copy of the independent evaluative report, which has been publicly posted in accordance with commission procedures. We have not received a written response from the respondent, and we have not received any submittals from the public. Ordinarily, the hearing will be split into 2 parts. The structure of the hearing will be as follows. First, the commission will consider whether any violation of the Sacramento Municipal Code occurred. Commissioners may ask questions of the complainant, each respondent, the witnesses, and the evaluator when recognized by the chairperson. If, however, a commissioner is a complainant, they may not participate. That does not apply. All testimony shall be under oath or affirmation. If for some reason the commission wants a witness to appear who has not, the commission may ask the city council to issue a subpoena compelling witnesses to appear at the hearing and provide testimony, or a subpoena dosis tecum comparing witnesses to produce documents. The order of witnesses will be as follows. The independent evaluator will present their report. The respondent will then have an opportunity to be heard and present other evidence. The commission may receive relevant testimony from other witnesses, but the commission may exclude any would-be witnesses at the commission's discretion with the concurrence of the city attorney. After the completion of all testimonies, the commission will receive public comment, if any. Am I correct, Mr. Lindsay, that that is the moment in the process where the complainant may comment if she wants to on public comment? I'm not seeing where the complainant.
Well, the complainant, where there might be other witnesses, the complainant might also, we don't know for sure, but also offer.
Complainant goes under witnesses. Okay. We will get you, Ms. Black, if you want to speak. With that introduction, I would like to invite the independent evaluator, Trevor Taniguchi of Hanson Bridget, to present the evaluator's report. And Mr. Taniguchi, I must administer an oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide, along with any evidence you submit, are the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much, sir. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair, fellow commissioners. Trevor Taniguchi from your independent evaluator team at Hanson Bridget. I'm here tonight to present again a summary of our investigative report regarding a complaint that was submitted by Carla Black regarding Mayor McCarty. If you recall from our training during the last Ethics Commission meeting, when a complaint comes in, we assume all facts contained in the complaint to be true. And through that evaluation, we determine if we assume all those facts to be true, whether there would potentially be a violation of the city's municipal code or the Political Reform Act, sections that come within the purview of the Ethics Commission. And if all the answers are yes to those preliminary questions, we then move forward to an investigation, which is what we have here tonight. So, although there were lots of allegations contained in Ms. Black's complaint regarding Mayor McCarty, distilled down, giving the benefit of the doubt to the complainant, we were able to determine that there were two potential violations of laws that are within the purview of this commission. The first allegation is that Mayor McCarty violated the Political Reform Act by receiving more than $500 in a campaign contribution and then participated in a March 25th, 2025 vote to extend the operational deadline for Cannabis Opportunity Reinvestment and Equity, known by the acronym CORE, permittees for non-dispensary storefront permits issued by the city. The second allegation is that Mayor McCarty's 2024 mayoral campaign failed to aggregate contributions specifically from Nasser Azimi, Terranomic Software, and Ohana Gardens as required by the Sacramento Municipal Code. And had those contributions been aggregated as required by the Sacramento Municipal Code, they would have exceeded the campaign contribution limits set forth by the city's municipal code. So, assuming all the facts contained in the complaint to be true, we move forward to our investigation. As stated in our report, the Political Reform Act prohibits Mayor McCarty from accepting more than $500 from a contributor and then participating within a 12-month period in a governmental decision from that contributor if that contributor is a directly named permittee. We evaluated all of Mayor McCarty's 2024 mayoral campaign 460s that were filed with the city clerk's office, as well as the mayor's 2028 campaign filings. None of the 10 core permittees that were subject of the March 25th, 2025 governmental action that came before the city council, in which Mayor McCarty participated in, made contributions to the mayor's campaign, and therefore our conclusion regarding allegation number 1 is that there is no violation of the Political Reform Act. Moving to the second allegation. The city has a unique aggregation requirement. So different than almost all the other cities that we examined that have ethics commissions, certainly unique to the city of Sacramento, is a municipal code requirement that places really the, for lack of a better word, blame or guilt on the actual contributors rather than the actual recipient. So under the city's municipal code, I'll read it specifically. It states, "It is the intent of this section to make contributors and not candidates liable for violations of this," it says this section, which is the aggregation section, "occurring as a result of the applicability of the aggregation rules, except where there is sufficient proof that the candidate had knowledge that the contributions must be aggregated." So the city's municipal code makes a specific knowledge requirement to find a candidate liable for violating the city's aggregation requirements. So as part of our investigation, we interviewed Mayor McCarty, his campaign treasurer from 2024, as well as his campaign consultant. The summaries of those interviews, as well as the relevant quotations, are included in our report. We ultimately concluded that the mayor did not have any knowledge that any of those contributions received by his campaign should have been aggregated, and therefore our conclusion is that the burden set forth in the city's municipal code has not been met, that there was not sufficient evidence that the mayor had knowledge that any of those contributions should have been aggregated as part of his 2024 mayoral campaign. And just as an aside, based on the publicly available information, we weren't actually able to discern whether or not there would have been a violation of the city's aggregation statutes, even if, again, assuming all the facts to be true. But nevertheless, we did not see a reason based on this commission's purview, which is over the individual candidates, elected officers, and specified individuals. It doesn't have any control or purview over individual contributors, and so we did not, based on our determination, feel that it was necessary to go out and seek to interview those individual contributors. So based on all of that, our conclusion is that there were no violations of the municipal code, there was no violation of the Political Reform Act, and therefore our recommendation tonight is that the commission finds sufficient evidence does not exist that a violation of the municipal code occurred by Mayor McCarty or his mayoral campaign in 2024, and to dismiss the complaint. And I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Taniguchi. Do commissioners have any questions for the independent evaluator? Commissioner Emery.
So thank you very much. When I was reading the complaint, I noticed part of this complaint, which was not addressed, but I'm wondering whether it might have had a different, was the fact that the core businesses, that there seemed to have been extended for a year without going in and offering to new businesses. Do you think that would have, do you think that's part of this complaint, the fact that this was just it seemed to be just missed the deadline and so it was extending? Would that have made any difference on any of this, do you think?
Specific to the Political Reform Act portion that we evaluated, I don't think it would have made a difference. We looked at all 10 of the permittees, looked at whether or not they had made contributions, and so specifically in regards to the Levine Act, there would not have been a violation.
Thank you, Commissioner Emery. Any other commissioners have questions of Mr. Taniguchi? Seeing none, we are now.
Me.
I'm sorry, did I? Vice Chair Velasquez, thank you.
New? Yes. Oh. Just for my own comprehension, so on the first part, Nazir Azimi or Terranomic Software or Hannah Gardens did not participate in CORE.
They were not one of the 10 entities that were part of that specific decision that was referenced in the complaint.
And then second, I think I understood that it's up to the contributor to report who they're donating.
And I should just clarify, sorry to interrupt, just to clarify that first response. So that's based on what was listed on the city's website agenda packet, cross-reference with what was publicly available on the Bureau of Cannabis Control's website, detailing who the responsible owners were for each listed permittee. So based on that analysis, there was no...
The evidence that it was available, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And then regarding your second question, I'm sorry, I'm trying...
I think I understood that it's up to the contributor to divulge if they're contributing or as you guys call it, agitate, is that what it's referred to?
Oh, for aggregation?
Aggregation, yeah.
So the city itself in its municipal code does not have a specific requirement for identification. The FPPC has adopted a more recent regulation that requires limited liability companies to designate their responsible entity that's determined to be controlling the contribution on behalf of the company. But that regulation is specific to LLCs and not corporations.
Okay. And back to that first part where the private company or what have you, Nazir, Zimi, Terranomic, and Ohana, they did not participate in court, but they also, they would have to, it could possibly be a violation if they were involved in the core and their contribution exceeded 500, which their contribution part did, right? Was it, what was the amount for?
It really varied, but yes, if you were to aggregate their contributions, it would have exceeded the limit. They were certainly over $500.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Velasquez. Any other commissioners with a question for the evaluator? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. We will now give an opportunity for the respondent to make a statement and/or provide evidence if desired. Again, is Mayor McCarty or a representative on his behalf available to comment? Seeing none, we will now go to the next step, which is whether there are any witnesses. And we note that witnesses may appear of their own accord or at the request of commission or respondent. And Ms. Black, if you'd like to comment as a witness of your own accord, this is your opportunity. And Mr. Lindsay, do I need to swear in Ms. Black also?
Yes, Chair.
All right. Just like we did for the evaluator, Ms. Black, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide, along with any evidence you submit, are the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to read from.
That's okay.
Okay. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate the time the Commission and independent evaluator have spent reviewing my complaint. However, I respectfully ask the Commission not to close the matter with important factual questions still unanswered. The central issue is contribution aggregation. The investigation did not determine that aggregation was unnecessary. Instead, the report states that investigators were unable to determine whether Nazir Azimi possessed the ownership or controlling interest in Terranomic software, Ohana Garden, that could require contribution to be aggregated. That distinction matters. If ownership and control are necessary to determine whether contributions should have been aggregated, and ownership and control were never conclusively determined, then a critical factual question remains unresolved. The investigation then appears to reach a stopping point because the Commission lacks jurisdiction over contributors and because there was insufficient evidence that Mayor McCarty knew the contributions were required to be aggregated. But that creates a serious enforcement question. If contributors are responsible for properly aggregating contributions, but the Ethics Commission cannot enforce the law against those contributors, who does? And if the candidate can only be held responsible when there is sufficient evidence that the candidate knew aggregation was required, how can that knowledge question be fully evaluated before the underlying ownership and control relationships are established? These questions deserve answers before this matter is closed. There is also the Levinak allegation. I understand the evaluator's conclusion regarding the 10 original core permit recipients. However, I asked whether the investigation fully examined whether any other contributor, affiliated entity, owner, investor, representative, or financial interested person qualified as a party or participant in the governmental proceedings under the applicable law. The Commission does not have to decide tonight that a violation occurred in order to recognize that additional investigation may be appropriate. Your agenda specifically provides the Commission with the option of directing the evaluator to conduct further investigation and report back. It also provides the option of referring this complaint to the Fair Political Practice Commission and another government agency that may be better positioned to resolve the issue. I'm therefore respectfully requesting two things. First, order further investigation into the ownership and controlling interest involving Terranomics, Ohana Garden, Nazir Azimi, and the contributions at issue, including obtaining the corporate and contribution record necessary to actually answer the aggregation question. Second, if the Commission concludes it lacks jurisdiction to investigate or enforce the contributor side of these allegations, refer the relevant allegations and investigative materials to the FPPC or another appropriate enforcement agency rather than allowing a jurisdictional limitation to end the inquiry. This is bigger than one complaint or one elected official. Sacramento residents should be able to know when campaign contribution limits and aggregation requirements exist, there is an agency capable of determining whether those laws were followed. An unresolved factual question should not become a closed case simply because the answer may fall outside of one's agency's jurisdiction. I respectfully ask you to pursue the unanswered questions and refer them to an agency that can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Black. Do any commissioners have questions for the witness/complainant, Mr. Commissioner Kelly?
So I really have a comment because this is the issue I spoke about last time. And
Can I stop you?
Pardon?
We're at the phase of the proceeding where we're questioning the witness. We're not on the sort of general discussion level yet. Do you want to save your question?
One question.
Okay.
So do you know much about Mr. Azimi and his specific interests in the other organizations?
Yeah, so I know that he is the owner of Terranomics, who had campaign contributions. He's owner of Ohana Gardens. He's also I want to say partial of Cantinas, which is located in, a dispensary located in South Sac, or it could be Del Paso Heights, but Cantinas. And so I feel like there's those 3, 4, yeah. And this is information that I found just public record, like I didn't have to dive deep.
Ms. Black, are you finished with your response to Commissioner
Yeah.
Kelly? All right, thank you very much, and I very much appreciate that question. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Are you done, Commissioner Kelly? I'm done with the questions, yes. Understood. Vice Chair Velasquez. Ms. Black, Vice Chair Velasquez may have a question for you.
I have a couple of questions. Well, I have one question so far. If you had to, a couple of bullets, very brief, what is it that you're asking us to look further into what specifically that hasn't already been outlined?
Well, what's been outlined is what I'm asking. I don't think anything outside of that, but as far as bullet points, it would be to investigate further. So like, there's for this person, the aggregate of the multiple donations that was given to establish the connection that it was in fact the same person. It was just donated through different entities. He donated personally, donated through Ohana, donated through his other entities, Cantinas, and then Terranomics. And that together would violate, I think it's the Levin Act.
So can I ask a question to that?
I'm sorry, is that a subject matter question or may you ask who?
A question about her response.
You want to ask Ms. Black a question that's pertinent to the case? Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm trying to understand if we look into where specifically those contributions came, whether it was Ohana Gardens or a 7-Eleven, but they're all owned by that person. I'm trying to find out what does that information do for you?
Do for me? Well, I'm submitting it to you because it's a violation of policy. And therefore, it should be investigated.
What's the?
If I may help out Ms. Black, Vice Chair Velasquez.
Okay, yeah.
The aggregation issue means that you add up the cumulative contribution amounts from different sources if they're all controlled by the same person. The idea is that the contribution by Mr. Azimi, if you add to it the contribution from Ohana Gardens and the contribution from what is it?
Terranomics.
Terranomics, that if you aggregate them, that is to say, add them together, cumulatively, they exceed the city's contribution limit. That's the issue.
Oh, I see.
Again, the question.
Oh, 4,350 or whatever it is, 44,350 or.
I thought it was 5,000 something. I thought the Azimi was 4,300, something like that. One of them was about 1,500, and one of them was maybe 2,000. It's clearly above.
Okay, now I get what you're, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Lindsay, do you have a comment to make before we let Ms. Black sit down, or should I let her sit down before I recognize you?
Well, actually, if she could remain there. I just wanted to, for the purposes of the commission, for purposes of understanding for all, I think you just had the discussion you just had, but I think there is another angle to what Ms. Black is trying to point out as far as not ours, but your powers as far as the Ethics Commission is to not only deal with matters within your jurisdiction, but also to forward matters on. And that if you do not know, for instance, I believe what she's trying to say is that if you don't figure out the aggregation issue, you don't know whether or not intelligently you should forward this on to the FPPC or not.
I certainly appreciate that guidance, Mr. Lindsay, and I have been thinking about that, and I thought I was going to wait till we reached the discussion on our resolution before I raised it with the appropriate staff, but I very much appreciate you highlighting it. That's my comment. Are you concluded, Mr. Lindsay?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut anybody off. And you removed yourself from the queue. Okay.
I realize I think my other comments are for the discussion section.
Appreciate
That you
that.
mentioned, yeah.
Very much. We are finally going to let you sit down, Ms. Black. Thank you. Okay. Are there any more witnesses who want to appear on their own accord? And Ms. Black, if you're going to have your son do public comment, that's the next step in the process. And then he won't have to take an oath. Okay. Let the record show we've finished hearing from witnesses. We will now take public comment from any member of the public. Each person wishing to speak will have up to 2 minutes. We do not require but request that you state your name for the record. Please remember this is an opportunity to address the commission. This is not an opportunity to ask any questions of any witness or engage in a conversation with any individual here this evening. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we do have one speaker for this item, Zeus.
Welcome, Zeus.
Good evening. My name is Zeus, and I am 9 years old. I think our mayor and other leaders should have to follow the same rules as everybody else. If there is a question whether campaign money was connected to businesses or to people or businesses that benefited from a city decision, I think the city should find out what really happened. If the investigation doesn't have all the answers yet, I don't think you should just stop looking. Kids are taught that rules matter. I think adults in government should show us that they matter too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zeus, and we appreciate you coming here. We like to see young people become civically engaged. Kudos to you and your mom. Thank you. Zeus for president. Okay. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, no more public comment, right?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have any other speakers for this item.
All right, thank you very much. All right, public comment is now closed. It is now time for the commission discussion or comment. Again, as I outlined at the beginning, it's a two-step process. A, is there a violation? B, if there's a violation, is there a sanction? My script asks for a motion to receive the independent evaluator's report, but I think we will incorporate that into the rest of the motion, that fines or not fines, et cetera, et cetera. The commission action regarding the complaint at issue may take one or more of the following actions. And this is when you wanted me to read from the staff report. We may, 1, pass a motion receiving the independent evaluator's report, and 2, take one or more of the following actions pursuant to Section 5.5 of the Sacramento Ethics Commission procedures. Either A, pass a motion directing the evaluator to conduct further investigation and report back to the commission. B, adopt a resolution finding that sufficient evidence does not exist to establish that a violation occurred and ordering that the complaint be dismissed. C, adopt a resolution finding that sufficient evidence exists to establish that a violation occurred and including one or more of the actions authorized by Section 5.6. And or D, pass a motion referring the complaint to the Fair Political Practices Commission or another government agency that may more appropriately resolve the allegations in the complaint or enforce the applicable provisions of law, and directing the city clerk or city attorney to send a copy of all relevant information to the FPPC or the agency along with the referral. And I will underscore that of those 4 options, it's and/or, meaning we can do more than one, assuming they're compatible. This is a moment, commissioners, where we may either deliberate and make a motion or make a motion and then deliberate. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? And I see a queue. Commissioner Kelly.
So I have a couple of things. I did talk about aggregation last time. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it really deeply disturbs me that there are no consequences when these contributions are aggregated and they exceed the amount that's allowed. I'm with the petitioner on this in the sense that Google tells me that Mr. Nasir Azimi has an interest in Terranomics and Ohana Gardens. That seemed to be pretty clear. What his actual interest is, I don't know. But it is kind of a red herring to what we're deciding because it's outside of our jurisdiction. But it really does disturb me that, and maybe this is headed towards sending this to the FPPC, if they would have jurisdiction over the contributor. Is that, I don't know, Mr. Lindsay?
Well, they might, and that would probably be the reason. Oh, the FPPC could theoretically be somebody, there could be a referral based on someone that the Ethics Commission does have jurisdiction over or doesn't.
Okay.
Or
But
combination.
again, let me just say again, it disturbs me because in a related things, the straw man issue, where if I were to give money to all my friends and then they all contributed, you do hard time in jail. We have a local congressman whose father spent a couple of years in the federal penitentiary for doing the straw donor thing. And this is similar but different because one person is using entities that they own to try and evade contribution limits. I do want to touch briefly because the threshold issue is whether this person was part of CORE, and it seems to be clear that they're not part of the CORE group. And it's not uncommon, and this may be something that the petitioner is not familiar with, it's not uncommon if somebody in the same industry gives campaign contributions to people who are generally supportive of their industry. And I suspect that's what's working here. I don't think that's a violation. But again, I remain deeply concerned about the aggregation issue that is unresolved because it appears to be outside our jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Emery.
This is really interesting because with the way I've always read our, what the Ethics Commission is about to do is we're actually looking at the candidates. And as candidates, generally, you have other people collecting money. You just don't really find out everybody, who's been collecting it. And I think, I think you bring out a good point about the aggregation, but I think this is part of the problem, not a problem, but maybe it's an issue here, is the fact that, and it's not candidates trying not to know, if you're really busy running for election, and other people are the ones that are collecting it. And I see the, the Usdinin company, who's used by many, very, very well respected, but candidates generally just don't know who has been giving money. So for them to go and say, oh, well, this name sounds familiar, and are they related to this? And that, I think, it's that the way I read what we're supposed to do, that's not part of it, is supposed to be the candidate itself. And, we have to look, does it then go to the candidate and the company they keep that get them elected? So I can understand some of the frustration, but I just don't really believe it's part of the Ethics Commission unless we expanded that role. Or
Thank you.
if someone wants to disagree with me, I'm fine.
Thank you, Commissioner Emery. Vice Chair Velasquez.
Thank you. A couple of things I want to clarify for myself, and maybe there's somebody out there as well. the rules for contributors, whether it's one owner of several businesses or they're partial owners, they're still limited to a certain amount. That's correct?
I would leave that to the independent evaluator, who's probably more versed in it, given the situation.
Okay.
If you'd like to come up, Mr. Taniguchi, we'd appreciate your help.
So I understand that it's on the contributor and not the candidate. And if it's one owner or with several businesses, even if they're partial owners, there is a limit that they can contribute.
It will depend on the type of entity they are. And again, like I mentioned, if they are LLC pursuant to FPPC regulations, they would have needed to have designated who is controlling that
Okay.
contribution. And so it is not as simple as so-and-so owns 30% or 50%. There is a secondary part of that evaluation that goes into whether that individual is directing that contribution. And if that individual is directing that contribution, then that contribution is aggregated to the individual themselves.
And the part about forwarding it to, is that because we don't have access to LLCs? LLCs are pretty protected as far as you never really know who owns them. Is that because of that aspect, or because it's a contributor that would be looking at and not a candidate?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
This talk about forwarding this possibly to another entity, what are we saying, the FCC or, what is it? FPPC? Is that because there's a possibility of an LLC, which is hard to determine who actually is the owner or partner in that, or is that because it's a contributor?
So from my view, that part of the recommendation would be because as part of our role as the independent evaluator, we're bound to look at what is within this commission's jurisdiction.
Okay.
And so as articulated in this commission's jurisdiction is enforcement of specific provisions of the municipal code. And as we evaluated the complaint, there were two specific relevant portions within this commission's jurisdiction, one of which is the city's specific aggregation statutes. As I mentioned during my presentation, the city has a very unique aggregation requirement in that it holds the contributor themselves liable, not the candidate. And so I can't speak to what the FPPC would be evaluating, whether they would be evaluating state regulations or application of the city's own municipal code to the particular circumstances. Perhaps the city attorney knows, but I'm not clear on that particular.
Okay, and so if it was to be forwarded, this case to be forwarded to them, it would be, whatever they determined, they would be in contact with the respondent, and we would be out of it at that point.
I'm not entirely clear on the process. I would defer to the city attorney's office as to what that entails.
That would be the rough
Yeah,
description.
generally,
Yes.
okay.
The business with the Ethics Commission would be resolved, and then it would be up to the FPPC, or if there's another agency, to handle it however those there see fit.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Velasquez. Commissioner Kelly.
I just wanted to briefly respond to Commissioner Emery's comment about aggregation and just, this isn't like personal liability and there's no criminal liability. This is just mechanical mathematics. And in other jurisdictions in other states, they would simply disgorge the excess amount. If you got $10,000 and the cap was $5,000, that other $5,000 would be sent back by the campaign committee to whoever gave it. So I don't want anyone to feel, because we have this peculiar thing about personal knowledge, that in any event, even with personal knowledge, that this is some sort of criminal or some sort of wrongdoing. It's really more of a math thing, and just the contributors, because any candidate, when you get checks from 3 different entities, is never going to, they don't go out and see who the owner is. This is really just a matter of, it does fall on the contributor. And in my opinion, it's the contributor that ought to be held responsible.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Dow.
Yes, Thank you, everyone. And I think I had the same question as well as Vice Chair Velasquez, just around, who would be the one who is would then carry on that further investigation for the contributor side. I think there was some clarification, but it sounds like a procedural sort of issue or process there. And so my question was just around that, whether, if we were to refer this complaint to the FPPC or another agency, my question was just, where does it go from there, right? And who would be the one who would investigate that? But I think based on one of the requests that Ms. Black provided in her testimony today, I do feel like this would be something we would pass on, especially if it's on the contributor side. So just wanted to make those comments as well.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Dow. As I've said many times, my belief is that the chair should speak last, but since we've almost gone 2 rounds, it's my turn. About 4 questions, well, a couple comments. One, I do want to underscore, and I thank you for your earlier question, Vice Chair Velasquez, notwithstanding the 2 complaints united in this one matter, it seems to me there is utterly no factual connection between the Levine Act matter and the aggregation matter as it relates to the parties involved. And I don't see anything in the record that lends itself to inferring a connection. That I wanted to state for the record. Mr. Taniguchi, can I ask you to come up and clarify something? So when you were responding to Vice Chair Velasquez's last question, I was hearing you hold back from giving a primer on business associations law, and I was thinking, okay, controlling interest. But then you said something that I wanted to make sure I understood properly, which is this issue about the person who's designated for controlling campaign contributions. Do I understand that you need both of those things for the individual's contribution to be aggregated? A, that they have the controlling interest, and B, that they are designated as controlling for campaign contributions?
No, Chair. I was just highlighting that it's not as simple as understanding ownership per se. In the structure of the company, the second part of it is, yes, if they're an owner, but the secondary consideration is whether they are controlling contributions on behalf of that particular entity.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you. My next question, I probably won't get a great answer on because I've tried before, but I'm going to try anyway. This is for both you and Mr. Lindsay. I remember when I first tried to understand our local campaign finance law, and I definitely noticed how the onus was put on the recipient of the contribution in the sense of the parts of the law that I understood, without regard to commission jurisdiction, just the local campaign finance law itself. My question is, are there any parts of the local campaign finance law that does impose some responsibility on contributors, even if they're not within the commission's jurisdiction for enforcement purposes? I know you're not with the section that does with this ordinance, Mr. Lindsay. I've tried this before, but I thought I'd try it anyway.
Yeah, that would be I would need to research that to answer that question.
I know you've worked with our ordinance a fair amount, Mr. Taniguchi, so I'll give you a shot.
I will give you the lawyerly answer is that I'm not aware of a specific provision, although that's not to say that one doesn't exist, but running through the sections we reviewed as far as trying to find an applicable potential violation of the municipal code in relation to this complaint, substantively those were the 2, the Levine Act and the aggregation statutes that we determined and ultimately concluded were, if we assumed all the facts within Ms. Black's complaint to be true, would be potential violations.
Appreciate that. Okay. I guess a comment before my last question, which is, I appreciate your frustration, Commissioner Kelly. I think as I've been a little bit here longer and I have lots of scars about the questions of jurisdiction, the parameters that the independent evaluator put on the way they did their report resonate with me. Also, I'm aware of issues outside the chamber about how we use our resources, and notwithstanding curiosity and frustration, I do think the independent evaluator used their resources appropriately as it relates to the jurisdiction we have. Now I get to the FPPC referral question, which I will freely admit, I walked in the room curious about that question. I didn't know it was going to come alive like this. But the question I was asking myself when I was walking over is, the aggregation issue is a part of the City of Sacramento campaign finance ordinance. And I understand if we refer it to the FPPC, and again, fundamentally the issue is about a campaign contribution limit that's imposed by city law, which if I understand correctly doesn't exist in state law. What I'm trying to understand is, does the FPPC have enough jurisdiction over this matter to substantively do anything with it? That's not an argument not to refer to them. I just want to understand what it's likely to happen if it lands over there if we go there. I'm sorry, I did about 2 parentheticals, so I'll repeat the question if you want me to. Does the FPPC have jurisdiction over the aggregation issue because it comes from the City of Sacramento campaign finance ordinance contribution limitations?
I would just say, if I may, Counsel for the Commission, I would not want to speak for the jurisdiction of FPPC. They might have lawyers there who would think that there are things that we might miss or not be aware of that they are more astute and knowledgeable about, where they might see something here that we don't currently.
Appreciate that. Anything to add, Mr. Taniguchi?
I defer to the City Attorney's Office, Chair.
Fair enough. Very appreciate that. So I'm going to make a quick comment, and then I'm going to yield to Vice Chair Velasquez. I just want to quickly say, we don't have a motion yet. As I said, I respect the analysis of the independent evaluator as it aligns with our jurisdiction. So I'm hoping to vote for a motion that finds no violation occurs and refers to the FPPC. With that personal comment, I defer or recognize Vice Chair Velasquez.
And I just have to, I almost went down that little rabbit hole as far as that you did with what FPPC would, what would do, they accept. So I started to ask myself in the last round, well, how much did Nazir, Terranomic, Ohana, how much did they, on paper, contribute individually? How much was that and how much, but that's not up to us to decide to whether to not to send to the FPPC. That's their decision to calculate and look into. So I'm in agreement as well. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. That's for them to look at and decide.
Thank you, Vice Chair Velasquez. Commissioner Kelly.
Just a response to Vice Chair Velasquez. The FPPC, unlike us, has subpoena powers. The first thing they're going to do is subpoena the records of the corporations or limited, and they'll figure this out at the, if they have jurisdiction, they would figure this out at the outset.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. With the speaker queue being clear, now I believe is the time to seek out one of my colleagues to make a motion. Commissioner Kelly.
I move that we find that there were no violations for purposes of the city's ordinances, and that we refer the matter regarding aggregation by Mr. Nasir Azimi to the FPPC, contingent on the city attorney's office determining that the FPPC has jurisdiction. Is that appropriate?
Yes, I'm going to do the clerk a favor. I'm also going to ask you to include in your motion that we are receiving the independent evaluator's report. If I understand your motion correctly, for the benefit of the clerk, that would be, according to our agenda notice, a motion consisting of 1 and 2B plus 2D as in dog. And, but I think you also added a proviso in there of conditioning it on something that the city attorney does. If you tell me that I have correctly stated your motion for the record, I will ask if there's a second before we continue.
Yeah, I think that accurately.
All right. I'm looking for a second.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't see you in the speaker queue, Vice Chair Velasquez, but I saw your hand. Do you want to be recognized?
I did, I just wanted to make sure that last part of,
Vice Chair Velasquez, go ahead.
I did, I just wanted to make sure that last part of legal counsel, that whether they, the FPPC part, that
I think all I'm asking
Oh,
is,
hey, okay, I'm not, okay. So remember this, remember the request to speak button, everybody. So at the moment, nobody's in the speaker queue. Vice Chair Velasquez has the floor. She's directed a question to the city attorney. And before we go any further, I'm going to ask the city attorney if he wants to answer, and we'll go from there.
Sorry. Yes, I would attempt to answer the question. Did you have a question for me, Commissioner?
me?
Yes.
I just, because I understood that earlier in the conversation, that we don't have any, we can't speak for FPPC. So I just wanted to make sure you're okay with that last part.
Well, if I could just clarify, what I was trying to say is that the FPPC would probably be far more aware of its jurisdiction than someone from outside of its
Okay.
as an organization. So I was suggesting that the issue spotting as potential issues of jurisdiction might be better left to the SPPC than
Okay.
someone within the city.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Kelly.
to clarify, I think all I'm asking is that we make a phone call or something before we put a lot of effort into formally sending something over to the FPPC just to determine jurisdiction. And whether it's the city attorney or the city clerk, that somebody.
I respect that, Commissioner. I will say, given my commitment to the formality and how it leaves us, I'm personally I'm a little uncomfortable with contingenting, sorry, making the motion contingent on the city attorney's review. And if we want to make that an informal request, then I would suggest we remove it from the motion and just make that a request of Mr. Lindsay or the appropriate person in the office, as you all determine. Are you interested in that amendment to the motion to remove?
Yeah, we can withdraw that proviso.
Got it. Okay, so that leaves us with a clean motion of 1 and 2B and 2D. Am I giving you what you want in that regard? Okay, good. Trying to make the clerk happy. Okay. We have a motion on the table. We have had some discussion. I will say for the record, I support the motion. Are there any other commissioner comments or questions? Seeing none. And on this matter, Madam Clerk, I will ask you to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, please unmute for the roll call vote. Commissioner Emery?
Approve, yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Tao?
Aye.
Commissioner Velasquez?
Aye.
And Chair LaFaso?
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That concludes item number 3. Thank you all for your attendance, your participation, and your cooperation. We are now moving to the next item, which is Commissioner comments, ideas, and questions. Commissioner Kelly.
So I have 2 items. One is at the end of the last meeting, we seemed to have a consensus of wanting to hear from the FPPC regarding the contract stuff that is in the city ordinance. And I guess I'm asking direction, maybe the city clerk can help us out, as to whether we should finalize our ad hoc committee report with multiple options, or whether it is appropriate to notice something on the next agenda that we could have a motion to formally invite the FPPC to make a presentation.
I appreciate that question. I support where you're trying to go, Commissioner Kelly. I would say that in some respects, it's the ad hoc committee's judgment on the sequencing. I think the question is properly framed on what's possible. My understanding is this communication occurred in a legal sense. That is a conversation that included 2 commissioners, you and me. The commissioner's instruction was that under this item, if we wanted it on a commission agenda, that a commission only needed to make that request and get it included in the complaint log. And maybe you want to focus that to the city clerk. That's only my suggestion.
I'll follow your.
Then now you need to do it and ask the
Okay.
clerk.
So ask the city clerk.
Yes.
So, yeah, Ms. Cup, can we put something on the agenda for next time, or must we have a final report?
Good evening, Commissioners. Mindy Cuppy, City Clerk. So the typical process for an ad hoc committee is for the ad hoc committee to go do the work and come back to this body with a recommendation. You can add something to a commission's follow-up log. We could do that, and you could ask me to invite the FPPC. In my professional opinion, it'd be more appropriate for the ad hoc committee to meet with the FPPC and make your final report, your recommendation to this legislative body. Timing is good because you do have an annual report coming this fall. So that would be my professional opinion. However, this is the appropriate time to ask for me to put something on the follow-up log.
Okay.
And for the record, Commissioner Kelly, you and I have both met with the FPPC.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I believe we disclosed that under the discussion item at the last meeting, and I thought part of our attempt to move forward was to gauge commissioner thoughts on matters that we'd come to understand and use commissioner thoughts appropriately and publicly learned about in a public proceeding to assist us in finishing our report. Not to mention pursuing all the other options we might want to examine. That was how I remembered it ending at the last meeting.
So I'm not sure where that leaves.
You have a choice to make as to whether you want to ask whether we invite the FPPC before the final report or after the final
Yeah,
report.
I would
Your
like
choice.
to, I would prefer, because, again, my sense of the process.
I don't have the power, so you need to direct your
Okay.
remarks to the clerk.
My sense of the process, what I'm interested in doing is discerning from the original ordinance, which contemplated a contract with the FPPC. At some point, we have to go back to the city council and either ask them to approve a contract or amend the ordinance and do something else. And I think we're trying to gauge the interest of the commission in whether revisiting the FPPC, which last time during the contract was apparently not a positive experience. The structure, well, the people who run the FPPC are much different people today. So I think we would like to hear from them before we do a final report and make a recommendation to the commission as to sending something to the city council, if that makes sense. So can we do that?
Yes, you can ask that I put something on the follow-up log
Okay.
to invite the FPPC to this legislative body, but then you've now moved the ad hoc to the commission.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that last comment?
You've now moved the ad hoc to the commission. Like I said, typical ad hoc process is the ad hoc goes away, does the work, and comes back with a recommendation to this body on what you want to forward.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cuppy, I don't understand why inviting an entity on the initiation of one commissioner terminates the ad hoc. I don't understand that.
So you're now talking with this legislative body. If you need direction from the full commission back to the ad hoc, that would be appropriate to invite the FPPC here.
Okay.
So as I said, that is something appropriate to go on the follow-up log.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. You had another item.
I had
Commissioner Kelly.
a second thing, and again, much like the matter that we heard this evening is really sort of outside the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission, but I wanted to raise it as sort of as a public acknowledgement that when we see unethical behavior in the city, I think we're kind of the conscience of the city in terms of these laws. I just note that the Sacramento Bee had an article last month about a city employee who manages the contract that under which the city's tickets to their luxury box at the Golden One are distributed to charities. And there was an allegation that one particular charity was favored because that charity kicked back tickets to that city employee and her family members. And again, while we have oversight of public contracts, I don't believe the city employee is within the group of people over whom we have jurisdiction. And I also, if AI is reliable at all, apparently it's less of an ethics issue than it is a bribery issue under the criminal statutes. But I wanted to say this in public because, again, I think one of our primary missions here is to sort of spread the word, the gospel, as you were, of city employees and contractors and people who deal with the city should have a sense of what's right and wrong. And we should always encourage people to do the right thing and call out, as the bee did, if some people are doing things that are inappropriate. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Any other commissioner comments, ideas, or questions? Commissioner Emery.
I guess I would like to know, as Commissioner Kelly and Vice Chair LaFaso, you're on this ad hoc committee. Commissioner Kelly has said that he'd like to hear the FPP first before your thing. I'd like to know, what does the ad hoc committee, is that in agreement with the whole ad hoc committee to do that first or the other way around? Because I think you guys have been working on this. Yeah.
I appreciate that. We, of course, had this item noticed last time, not this time, so we got to tread lightly.
Right.
I support Commissioner Kelly in that regard.
Okay. Because
Appreciate
since it was asked to get the commissioner's view on this, and I felt this was an important to hear what the ad hoc committee had in mind. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. I have one item. We had a good discussion on a lot of training items last time, and one of the messages that were delivered, particularly by Mr. Lindsay, is reminding us as a commission that we are the controllers of our rules of procedure. And I have raised a number of issues about how the complaint process functions, and we had a little discussion about how, well, if you have an issue, should you want to make some proposals? And I consider the process too nuanced and more about how it's implemented, not necessarily whether the rules themselves need work. And I've always said I need more data points to understand it if I would ever propose a rule change. I thought about this after the last meeting, and I thought of a few very modest changes that I might propose that merely make that process just a little bit more transparent. And I'm just letting you know that I will be submitting something to staff for comment, and we'll go from there. But I am going to heed the call that if I have suggestions to make to be concrete, and I'm getting ready to do that. I just wanted to share that with you. Last call on commissioner comments, ideas, and questions. Seeing none. Last item, public comments, matters on the agenda. Are there any public comments on matters not on the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have any speakers for matters not on the agenda.
All right, thank you very much. We are ready to adjourn. Everybody ready to adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.